Okay, on the count of three, as soon as I say three, we'll clap. So on 1, 2, 3. Okay, Tim was way behind on that.
I'm on Hawaii time, man.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, man.
We're behind on everything.
3 hours behind. All right, let's try that one more time. And on three, as soon as I say three. 1, 2, 3. Close enough. That's all right. Well, it is that time again, and welcome back to Street PX Photography Podcast. As always, my name is Casper, and unfortunately I can't say as always anymore because you weren't with us last time, but hey, Jim.
Jim Watkins back on the show after a little hiatus, but I was traveling.
He took a break from the mic. He was like, I'm gonna step away for a minute and go to the East Coast.
Yeah, I was hanging out on the East Coast, but you had an able-bodied person coming in and taking over for me, Pete Rossos.
Yes, a big thank you to Pete, man.
Awesome, Pete. Way to go, man.
I knew he was going to be good. Pete's one of those kind of people you can wind up and just let him go. And especially if you dangle, a roll of 35 millimeter film in front of him, he'll just keep on going.
And he's a Chicago boy too, man. You can't go wrong, man.
Yes, that Chicago love, man. And also a big thank you to Nick Mayo too for giving us such a wonderful discussion. I mean, that was more than I could have hoped for, and I hope that everybody out there that listened to that episode got a chance to really soak in all that knowledge that Pete and Nick, I want to say, those guys more than me were dishing out, because that those two are your film aficionados. I was just kind of more a spectator than anything. But one thing I do want to say, thank you all for participating in Film Week, to everybody that came out to the film photo walk that started there at Glass Key. I think we had about almost a dozen people, 10 to 12 people, and ended that one with some beers that night. So you missed out on beers, man.
Yeah, I missed everything. But hey, you know what? I was having a good time out east. So there you go.
That's true. But we do have a couple of things still going on. Even though Film Week is over, we still have two contests. It's the social media contest. So if you go and follow us on Twitter, that's twitter.com/StreetPX. Follow us and share. And everybody that's involved, we're going to throw it into a hat, pull some names, 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know. Nick actually offered up a T-shirt and a coffee mug, too, to add to the prizes. So we might have just a shit ton of winners between that one and go to Street PX Lounge and share your favorite film images, hashtag them with film contest, and we're going to select our favorites. This is going to go until October 19. That's the deadline. And the reason for that is our 50th episode. Man, 50 is coming up. Can you believe that?
No, I can't. I can't believe that, man.
I love it.
We lasted this long.
2 years. And here's the funny thing. That'll be our 2-year anniversary episode, too. So
there you go, man.
It took us 2 years to make 50 episodes. Go figure.
Yeah. I'm done.
Well, that's what happens whenever you do them at full, like, Peter Jackson length,
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and it wouldn't be a show if I didn't throw some love out to our wonderful sponsor, Glass Key Photo. That is San Francisco's premier place for all things analog photography, located right off Van Ness now. If you haven't been listening to our show for a while, we always talk about that. But I definitely want to say, anybody out there that loves to shoot film, particularly experimental film photography, they just got in a number of color infrared film. I'm not sure the specifics of it, but I was over there visiting here this week, and it's amazing stuff. He showed me some examples. I mean, trees that are bright red, grass fields that are pink or purple. I mean, if you're really wanting to do some experimental photography, this is the kind of stuff you want to try and use. They have it in stock right now. It is not going to last long, nor is it cheap. But you get what you pay for in this stuff, and that's something I wanted to bring up about our awesome sponsors here. And also, since they've moved locations, they do have a major grand opening coming up here in November. We'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a couple of weeks. Excellent. All right. Oh, speaking of like all the Film Week stuff, this is a good time to tell everybody we are doing the Secret Print Exchange again this year. And if any of our listeners out there remember it, Jim, I think you remember us doing this, right?
Oh, I definitely remember, yeah.
Amazing turnout last year, and we're hoping for more this year. Pretty much all it is just a way of sharing work. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, just sign up, go to streetpx.com. We're going to have a sign up for it, and we just need your name and address. And with that, we'll actually throw it into the big special wheel of random awesomeness, pull some names, and you'll be matched up with another photographer. Doesn't mean you're going to get their photograph, but we're going to give you somebody to send your print to. And by January 1st, another photographer from around the world will send their print to you. So it's a wonderful way of sharing work and getting to know new artists. And we want you involved. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking a lot more about it as we carry forward into the holiday season. Now, I've been rambling. I want to go ahead and kick it to Jim. Let's do some plugs real quick for some awesome events.
Well, you know what? We got coming up on October 14th, the San Francisco Street Photography Group is going to gather together and go see the Walker Evans exhibit at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. So if you're in the area, meet us at the museum, 1 o'clock, October 14th. That's on a Saturday. And we're going to check out this exhibit, which I'm going to say is about his view of the American vernacular. And I have seen it. It is amazing. I cannot wait to check it out with the rest of the group. And after we do that, maybe a couple hours in the museum, we're just going to go find somewhere to get some food and drink and talk about what we've seen and just have a good time. So October 14th, 1 o'clock, come on out if you're in the area and let's check it out.
Yep. And do you know when that exhibit is going till, just in case there's some outside the state travelers coming in later? Gotcha. But check the show notes. We'll give a nice finite.
Check the show.
Date
Yeah,
there.
we'll definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you folks over on the East Coast, over in Brooklyn, there is a Daido Moriyama show going on right now, but you got to be quick. That one closes on the 22nd of this month. It's been up there for about a month already, but that's at the Luring Augustine Bushwick Gallery, and we'll have the address and link for all that information in the show notes as well. And best of all for our Bay Area listeners, Berkeley Art Museum. They got Gordon Parks, a wonderful exhibit going on over there. It's been up for a few days now, but you have until December. So if you're in the Bay Area, hell, Jim, we might actually, like we talked about before, we might actually have to make a day of it for a bunch of our photographer friends.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a field trip on the horizon for that one, man.
Yes,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's Gordon Parks, definitely a must see.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, that's all the plugs that we have. Let's see. Quick things. Check us out on Patreon. Give back, help us. Mike's hot, lights on, all that fun stuff. Check us out. iTunes, reviews, stars, blah, blah, blah. Let's get into this show with Tim, right?
All right.
In the studio today, we have a wonderful photographer coming to us out of Honolulu, Hawaii. That's Tim Huynh. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. I'm probably the least qualified of all your guests that you've had in the past, but hey, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, but you're the first one from paradise, man. So,
I'm the first one. I'm the first from Hawaii every time.
Yeah, that's right.
That is true. Well, I know we all kind of me and you got a chance to meet at Streetfoto. We were talking before the show. You didn't get to catch Jim while he was indisposed in various times.
Hey, man, that sounds kind of sleazy, man.
Don't it, though? Yeah. I figured I was going for that angle.
Running like a headless chicken.
Yeah.
Yes. But we've been wanting to get you on the show here to talk a little bit about yourself and your work. So we'll just kind of start with that. How would you describe who Tim is to our listeners?
So by trade, I'm a videographer. I got my undergrad in film, whatever that means, right? And so how I was introduced to street photography, back in 2010, I was staying up in Chicago with my girlfriend, who's my wife now, but at the time my girlfriend. She was going to school up there, and I decided to last minute tag along. And I didn't have any plans or anything like that, no job or internship in line. And I happened to get a small video internship over, was it Granville? You know, you're from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Granville. And one of the other interns was telling me about how his friend John Maloof, who directed and discovered Vivian Meyer, he was telling everybody, hey, you know, my friend just bought all these negatives and he's posting it, creating a blog, and he was just showing it off to everybody. I think he was kind of in the most discreet way trying to get the small production to donate funds to fund the film.
Yeah.
Because at the time they were still early on, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember him showing me the website with the photos, and I was just amazed.
Yeah.
You know, with Vivian's work, and I was like, dang, man. That's some good shit. And I'm right here in Chicago. I'm here in Chicago where she made majority of her work, right? I was like, I can do this. I got a camera. I can go out and take some photos like this. So on my downtime, I would go to Michigan Ave and just certain areas in Chicago and just take pictures. And I would always come back home disappointed. And I was like, dang, this is a lot harder. This is a lot harder than it looks, but I just kept doing it. And then eventually I came back home about 6 months after to finish my college studies, and I was still street shooting, but I didn't really have any direction. I didn't really research into it or anything like that. And at the time I wasn't really active on Facebook, so I wasn't involved in any, you know, street photography groups or anything like that.
Right.
And then about a year in, I was just asking myself, what the hell am I doing? Wasting my time going out and taking photos of, like, most of the stuff I got back was just crap, you know? So I just stopped shooting. And about a few years ago, I just started an Instagram account just because everybody had one anyways. And I was looking at other photographers, and I've always had that creative itch to get back into it. You know, with video, it's mostly work. So the creativity is not always there.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you do creative side projects, it ends up being like babysitting, because there's just so many elements, and when you're doing it independently, you're kind of doing majority of the work yourself.
Yeah.
So to see that finished product, it takes a long time. So with photography, street photography, I can kind of get my creative juices pretty frequent, you know, on a daily basis. Basically, just go out and walk around and take photos. And I always compare street photography kind of like cigarettes, you know. When you're smoking a cigarette, you're just not really thinking about anything. Just kind of in the zone, and you're just zoning out. And that's what street photography is to me. It's just like having a cigarette on your lunch break or whatever.
Now, how long ago did you move away from Chicago?
This was in 2010, and I was there just for about 6 months.
Just 6 months?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I came back. Yeah. But it was a good experience.
Now, since you got a chance to shoot a little bit while you were there before you came home and subsequently kind of shelved it for a little while, when you did get back out into the streets there in Hawaii, was there any significant differences that you noticed between being on the mainland and being on the island?
Not so much. I just had to get comfortable. And I don't think I was ever really comfortable or confident even when I returned back home and started shooting anyways. So when I got back out, I think this was in 2015, I got back out shooting. I was using a 135 millimeter lens.
What?
Yeah. Because I just wasn't comfortable shooting with up close, or, you know, walking by people and just taking a photo, right?
Yeah.
So you took the voyeur route.
Yeah, so I took the voyeur route. I think, looking back, it's funny, but I think it's just those baby steps.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
We all start, I think a lot of us start out
right.
with the Hubble telescope, you know, before we get to the 35 millimeter, you know.
Right. And I see some people on the streets shooting with like a giant telephoto lens.
Right.
And sometimes I gotta be humble and be like, yeah, hey, I was the same person, you know. But I kind of want to just tell them, hey, it looks less creepy if you just walk by them and just take the photo instead of standing 30, 40 feet away,
Those cross the street shots.
Right. I guess whatever works, right? Whatever works for you, just, instead of just jumping right into the fire, just take those baby steps and just keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you make a valid point about that, kind of reserve yourself from judgment because we all have to start somewhere. There's always a point where we don't know shit, and you got to learn, and it's actually a good kind of telltale way of being able to see the newbies in the street. I don't mean newbie like offensively. I was too, you were too, we all have been. But being able to see somebody like that, it's cool that you would seem like the person willing enough to like walk up to them, give them some tips on, hey, it might not be a good idea to do that.
Great. Next time I see somebody doing that, I probably would just start a small conversation. Hopefully they don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah, that's always a crapshoot. whether how they're gonna take it.
Right, and it depends on the location too, because if you're on the beach, right, and you're with a giant telephoto lens or just a long lens, it's even creepier because people are in their bathing suits and things like that. But
yeah,
it is what it is. Yeah.
Well, you seem to have definitely developed or overcome that fear. I noticed a video that you've been putting together recently, the street shooting on the beach, part 1 and part 2.
Right.
And kind of watching you just slowly kind of cruise down through that beach area. I mean, more power to you because it is a lot more of a personal, a lot more intimate space. And would be a hell of a lot more difficult than the street, it seems. I haven't shot on the beach myself in that regard outside of like Coney Island or something, but even then it was desolate.
The beach, actually, I think to me the beach is a little bit easier because it's a mixture of tourists and locals, and people are there to just have a good time.
Different mindset.
Right, they already have their guards down. They're already in Speedos, for crying out loud, so they can care less who's taking a picture of them, right? And it's, for me, I kind of like it because people are still.
Yeah.
There's people in the water and walking in and out and things like that, but it's a lot slowed down for me. So people are just sitting or they're standing in particular areas, where if on the street, sometimes it's too fast for me.
Yeah.
People are just walking back and forth, and especially in crowded areas like San Fran or Chicago, where there's a lot of people, but for me it's just hard to kind of analyze or just anticipate something happening because there's just so many movements.
Now Tim, I come at that from a different perspective because I would find the beach a lot harder to shoot, specifically because they are sitting still. And they could see you coming up, or unless they're sleeping. And also, I look at the beach and I don't, I would find it difficult to find something as far as street on the beach. But looking at your videos, I see you came up with some great shots. And I'm gonna tell you one of my favorites that I saw when you took that snap of the one where you got the two guys kind of against the same tree, where one guy is head is cut off. He's lying down and he's in the background. Then another guy's basically his head is up against the tree. I love that shot. That was a great street shot. I mean, I'm telling you.
And just a side note before you begin, for our listeners out there, this image will be on the show notes. You know Jim, he likes to describe them, so we'll show them later.
Yeah, no, I go into that, but that was a great street shot, and I said, man, maybe there is something on the beach, because I would never venture on the beach for fear that people would see me, and also that I would never find something. But you opened my eyes. You opened my eyes on that.
The funny thing is, I get to play tourist too. You know what I mean? Because we have a lot of visitors from international Asia, so I kind of blend right in.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if I see something, and I kind of get the impression that people are suspicious, I kind of just let it. I just be patient with it, and I just kind of look around and just. I don't rush it. I don't have to keep walking forward to, what I mean? Like if you're in New York you just walk by, take the shot. Sometimes you only have 1 or 2 takes,
Right.
But with the beach, everything's so slowed down that I don't need to rush up and take the photo and move on.
Now I do have to note, I love the name of this kind of project series, Beach Please.
Oh, right. Right.
Nice little play on words there.
It's my favorite word.
Beach or bitch?
Beach.
Beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Beach
Like, that'd be an interesting choice. Now, like whenever I think Hawaii, and I kind of come back full circle to the point of the differences between like when you're in Chicago or maybe San Francisco and Hawaii. It's just Hawaii to me feels like kind of one of those places like Puerto Rico or Guam where, yeah, it's part of quote unquote America, but you have a dynamic there that's significantly different, a culture that's completely different. And I was just kind of curious, like in the reactions that you get from the people, your subjects in the street, does it seem a lot more forgiving there on the island than it did here on the mainland, or anything in that regard?
I think it's kind of the same. I would compare it to maybe it's kind of the same to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. It's, they're kind of sometimes they'll just give you the look, right, or like they'll say something. What are you doing? But yeah, I don't think like I went to Cuba earlier this year, and yeah, people are more photogenic.
Yeah,
but I guess Hawaii, it's kind of nowadays it's almost like the mainland, man. And it's actually picked up a lot in recent years. Like I could tell you 10 years ago it was much different. Mm-hmm. But now with a lot of the condos and urban development and homelessness, it's like San Francisco, man.
Is that right? San
Francisco with beach, yeah.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Just not as expensive, but it's expensive. Yeah.
Well, it's expensive in other ways. You're talking like $8 gallons of milk or what have you.
Holy moly!
Ridiculous.
Well, everything's import,
That milk better last for a month. I don't care if it starts getting all chunky.
That just becomes cottage cheese. Then just switch the use.
God, you guys are grossing me out, man. Jesus Christ.
Well, just kind of continuing that point real quick. I noticed something in your blog, and this is one of the things you were talking about, is that kind of aversion to those cliche Hawaii shots. Is there anything that you consciously do to try and avoid that? You just ignore palm trees or water or what have you?
Actually, because Hawaii it's a small market, mm-hmm. and I mean there's a dimes and dozens with oceanographers, surf photographers, landscape, people that shoot lavas, professionally, and there's not much. I don't think there's anybody that have come out of Hawaii, and I may be wrong, that is street or documentary theme. And I don't try to limit myself, like avoid the palm trees or surfboards or anything like that, because again, there's not much of them have been produced or been shown on a grander scale.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I always tell like photography friends that Hawaii, there's opportunity like in any arts because it's such a small market, and we've heard millions of stories and photos from New York, San Fran, LA, whatever. We haven't heard or seen anything much from Hawaii,
Yeah,
that's true.
So there's opportunity, although it's going to be challenging. There's opportunity. So that's always there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Do you have any local photographers there on the island that you admire or want to kind of give a shout out to? Or share for people to look into, maybe Instagram or something?
I don't know if this person needs any more Instagram followers, but I like Clark Little. He's famously known for his photographs of the waves just barreling in.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's global at this point. I don't know if he needs any more Instagram followers. He can give me a shout out.
There you go.
That's what you need to interview him.
Hey, now, Tim, when you talk about street photography in Hawaii, Now I know Honolulu would be the spot, but are there any other towns? And I'm saying that because, I'm being self-serving because I'll be coming to Hawaii probably next year. My wife is going to insist on that. So is there anywhere else other than Honolulu that might be a good spot for, let's say, street photography? It doesn't have to be even an urban setting. What would be a good spot?
That's a good question. I think I only shoot in the same spots over and over. And that's in downtown or Chinatown, and mostly Waikiki, which is a touristy spot. But I've shot in other locations like in Kalihi, which is kind of an older part of town. It's not as dense. There's a lot of older buildings and some color, and the lighting can be nice during the evening. But yeah, again, I think there's potential. I haven't even touched base on, majority of the island because I just shoot the same spots.
Yeah.
But I think there's one street photographer. I don't know if you guys know him, Shin Noguchi.
I do now.
He's a Japanese photographer. He visited Hawaii, and it looked like he just went around the island. He got some pretty nice shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he he could do the whole tour of Oahu, the island of Oahu, in one day. So you can just drive around, stop, take photos here and there, then get up, stop and go, But I mostly just shoot in Waikiki just because of the density.
Yeah. Yeah.
What island are you guys going to, Jim?
I don't know yet. That's going to be up to her, of course. But
hit me up if you're in Honolulu.
Oh man, most definitely, because I want to get not only an urban setting, but I'm sure there are a lot of rural street photography type shots that might be really interesting to get.
And the good thing about it is, if you're shooting in some place like Waikiki, which is considered a tourist area, you can shoot the streets, and then if you're not finding anything, you just go right onto the sand, or vice versa,
Yeah.
So there's that dynamic, I guess, factor.
Kind of take your street photography hat off and put your landscape hat on, or seascape in this case.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, kind of moving off of the Hawaii thing, I want to kind of shift us over to your website, something that you've been very proactive on recently with your blog posts. Some for better, for worse.
Recently, right?
Right. But definitely a nice resource for new photographers in particular to go to, because I just like kind of like your streams of consciousness you put out there. And is there anything you want to share about that? I have a few topics I want to touch on, but is there anything that you want to bring up?
Yeah. So I kind of treat my blog like my street photography when I have time to do it. I used to bring my camera everywhere and try to set these schedules and things like that, but life's too crazy. So whenever I have time, or whenever I'm in the mindset to go out to the streets and photograph, then I'll do so. And the same thing with the blogs. If something, an idea comes to my mind, I'll write it down, or I'll blog right away. And it's just more opinionated. I'm sure you guys noticed that. It's just from my own experience and my thoughts, and that's the cool thing when you're not being paid, or you're not sponsored or whatever. You can just kind of write what you think, and just kind of at the end of the day, it's just to stir up questions.
Mm-hmm. Get a dialogue going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you really got a dialogue going with that, talking about those different street photographers.
Yeah, put them in the same sentence.
What makes the components of a great street photographer. You talk about the strength in the eyes of the eyes of this person, the strength of that person.
That was fascinating.
That was fascinating.
The building the perfect street photographer.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so I got that idea because ESPN, they always have segments, building the perfect quarterback or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, what if there was such thing as building the perfect street photographer? And then I just kind of dabbled in, and I just write and I just post immediately, and that one got a lot of opens or reds.
That was a fun read, man.
It's just stuff that if I'm curious, then I'll write. I'm not just gonna write about anything, waste my time and other people's time, and I'm not worried about trying to move up on the Google ranks or anything like that. I just want to write stuff that if I was to read myself,
Right.
Just kind of coming off of the sports and talking about your blog, there's something in there that was very fascinating to me is your talk about the correlation between, or at least what you look at as the pro wrestling and street photography. I want to hear you build that out. I'm really curious as to your line of thought on this.
Well, I'm a big pro wrestling fan since the early 90s. And
the golden era.
It's Hogan. Yeah, it's a kind of a sentimental thing because my dad started watching wrestling and Muhammad Ali because my dad came from Vietnam after the war to Hawaii, and so he didn't know a lick of English. So to learn English, besides going to night school, was to watch charismatic characters like Muhammad Ali and Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and all those guys. And it just kind of caught on. It went down to me and my brothers, and I tuned in here and there. And just the correlation between the two, if you just boil it down, at the end of the day, it's all about storytelling,
Mm-hmm. And it really is. That's what pro wrestling is about. The physical feats that go together with it is just part of the show, but it is about a story. And there's all these story arcs that carry through similar ways that seasons for television shows are, or what have you. It's entertainment. Right.
And that's what you want to evoke an emotion when people look at your photos, right?
Yeah.
You wanna, and if you can evoke more than one emotion, that's even better. And that's what wrestling, what it is about, whether they're cutting a promo on each other or they're doing their actual match in the ring, is about storytelling and getting your audience or viewer engaged. Because if somebody sees your photos and it's just nothing, they just skip right through it, then obviously there's no eye catcher or there's no story behind it.
Right.
It's like those images I kind of consider with pop images. Like in a thumbnail form, they might look interesting from afar, like a Monet, until you get close and you're like, there's really nothing here. Moving on. So
wait a minute, Monet? Come on, man. You speak of Monet, nothing. That's my man.
And nothing against Monet, but let's be fair. It's meant to be viewed at a distance.
I know what you mean because. You look at some of those, a lot of images that you see, especially with the younger people, or not younger people, but with the novices in street photography, you might see interesting photos, something, maybe a juxtaposition or something like that. They're interesting, but they don't last with the viewer. And what and what you're saying, Tim, and that's something that's really big with me. Is engage the viewer, let them think about it, and they'll remember that photo. Your point is well taken. Maybe I should start watching wrestling.
It'll make you a better street photographer.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of one and done. That's what I call it, one and done photos, where you see it and it's kind of like, okay, I get it, moving on. And a lot of those are usually comedic.
Yep.
Type of photos,
the punchline style.
Which is fine. It's cool, but to me, and it's hard to really. I think photography, especially street photography, is hard to insert multiple, emotions or get a reaction from, or just hold your viewer's attention.
Yeah.
Just to look at it and then come back to it, or just try to create their own story. I think those are the best street photos where you look at it and it doesn't give you any answers. You can kind of create your own narrative.
Oh man, that's exactly. I'm struggling with that myself now because I found street photography a lot harder when you try to do it that way. When you're searching, when you're trying to build a narrative that would engage the viewers. And that's, I mean, it is a really tough thing to do.
It's hard.
But it's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile thing to do, you know.
Well, it's further complicated by saturation today as well.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
you're not just trying to build a narrative or build something beyond just the picture, but you're also battling up against far more people today attempting to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them better, some of them worse.
Yep.
So I don't know if I answered your question with the correlation with wrestling.
Well, that's okay.
No,
well,
that-
let me just ask you this. What would be your chosen finisher if somebody confronted you in the street?
Oh, definitely a Stone Cold Stunner, man. No questions. There's no second, third place. It's just Stone Cold Stunner, right then and there.
See, I'm more partial to the diamond cutter.
And I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Boom, and just walk away.
Figure four. There you go. Just super kick it. Just go Shawn Michaels in that shit.
You just gave me an idea. That's my next vlog. What to do when you're confronted. 5
Right?
finishers.
You're gonna have to think it out though. What can you do the quickest? And it gives you a possibility for escape.
That's funny.
Hey, Tim, can we move to your experiences in Cuba? I've looked on your website and you have some beautiful pictures from Cuba. What first of all, what inspired you to go there, and then just talk about what you experienced there.
So Cuba, it's always been on the radar, and more so when I got into street photography. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of friends, and you guys know him, Peter Zhang,
yeah,
and Ken Walton.
Oh yeah.
I got some tips from them when they went to Cuba, and at first I was unsure, but the fact that they both went and they gave me some advice and tips made my I guess convincing to my wife a lot easier. And basically, it's Cuba is, like I said earlier, it's the people are photogenic and they're really nice.
So
like
you're
my
saying
first
they're like,
couple of days.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying photogenic, so they're more beautiful than the people in Hawaii, or
Beautiful and no, they're just they're okay if you take their photo.
yeah.
You know, and
That's what I hear a lot. Is that it's just a lot more amicable, less suspicion.
and they're more friendly. Like they're willing to just go up to you and talk. And at first, my first couple of days, I thought people were hustling me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you guys been outside the States, but like in Vietnam, like people would try to hustle you from once you land on the terminal. The guy's trying to grab your bags and try to hustle you, tell you to go in this line and that line. But actually, I was only in Cuba for 4 days, real short. Mm-hmm. By my third, fourth day, I realized, these people aren't trying to hustle me. They're just trying to show me around and trying to get me good deals on cigars and food and salsa dancing and all that. But my first couple of days, I was like, man, these people are trying to hustle me. Leave me alone. I just want to take some damn photos, man. Jesus Christ.
But it sounds like you eked out that kind of sense of genuinity, that honesty amongst people,
Right.
which is sadly lacking and very rare today.
Yeah.
So it was a breath of fresh air, and there's no internet, and people just see you as a tourist, right? Mm-hmm. Taking photos, this dumb tourist making photos of me. Who gives a damn? But I would recommend anybody to go over there and take photos. And I got a lot of luck in Cuba with my photos because I had one exhibit in Paris on my Cuban boxing series.
Yeah, the Trejos Gym, yeah.
Yeah, and one photo made the San Francisco street photo. So I guess it was a good investment, you would say.
Yeah. Now, how'd you get into the gym to shoot?
I contacted my Airbnb beforehand that I want to visit this spot, and you got to make reservations, and they'll check you in and all that. But at the end, and then after that, they'll just ask you for a couple bucks before you leave.
Was that kind of part of their new like adventures thing that Airbnb is starting to offer? Okay.
Yeah.
Gonna jump in here real quick and, throw some more love to our sponsor over at Glass Key Photo. Big thank you to those guys over there, Matt and Gordon, for not only sponsoring us, but for having such an amazing store. And I want to just kind of implore everybody out there, if you happen to be in the Bay Area, if you live in the Bay Area and you've never visited, definitely do so. It's a staple of San Francisco, especially in this day and age when camera shops are unfortunately going bye-bye. Glass Key Photo stays firm, and they have a ton of wonderful gear, anything from like Olympus Epics all the way up to Hasselblad 500s. I mean, you're talking an amazing selection, endless amounts of film, both new, expired, experimental, all kinds of great stuff. So go over there and check those guys out. Take a look at more information here on our page at streetpx.com as well as glasskeyphoto.com. So back to the show.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. Now I'm not going to let you slide with this. Now you said that you at least one of your shots was in a Paris exhibition. One of your boxing shots.
Yeah, my boxing series. That one, the curator, he just emailed me one day, like very randomly. Again, nice. I guess he just somehow bumped into my website, or I don't know. He wasn't really clear on how he discovered my work, but I just got a random email that they want to display the Trejo's series as a part of a group exhibition, and I thought it was a scam at first, but it seemed legit because there were other well-known street photographers on the list. So yeah, that was good. That was.
Did you get to visit? Did you get to go?
No, I didn't.
No.
I already used up all my vacation with Cuba and San Fran.
Oh man!
Well, I'm glad you chose to come to San Fran. Then Streetfoto is worthwhile.
Yeah.
And you were you were a finalist as far as Streetfoto, but you were also in the cage match, right?
Yeah.
With Bruce and Michelle and Don, right?
Yeah, they chewed up my photo.
Yeah, how'd you feel about that one?
And man, I'm never gonna forgive them after that. No, they had they had valid points. I mean, I didn't really expect. I just wanted to hear their feedback on it.
You just wanted Bruce Gilden to shit on your work, just for that moment. Yeah, I remember sitting beside. I think I was sitting beside you when your image came up too, and you just had this shit-eating grin from ear to ear the whole time. It was magnificent.
Hey, I'll take what I can get at this point. Like I said, just like in pro wrestling, right? A bad reaction is a good reaction. If your viewer just kind of looks at your photos or watch your match and there's no response.
Yeah. Well, hey,
So for them to look at my photo and chew it up, spend that time to chew it up, hey, that's a win for me.
You know what? That's an honor to have people of that caliber chewing up your photo. I wish I had that, man.
But if I remember correctly, it wasn't all chewing up. They did have some good things to say too, though.
Yeah, they had some good things to say, but at the end of the day, the negative outweighs the positive.
Oh yeah, well that's what you remember.
But
that's what you learn from.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. You learn from that. And that's the positive part. Man.
You don't learn shit from your best images. You just learn how to take likes and deal with it. Well, now just kind of talking about your accomplishments here, you were also in the World Street Photography book, right? I think issue number 4.
Right. 3 photos in there, and I was pretty happy with that one because I got 2 Hawaii photos in there.
Nice.
Prior to that, it was all Cuba, right? It was the street photo, and the Paris exhibition was all Cuba. So I was just kind of, just talking to myself, man, I want something from Hawaii to make something. So that was nice.
Cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a big congratulations on that because that's a great book. I've got one over here myself. I picked up in the past. Nice. I think issue number 3. So I'm gonna have to add 4 to the collection now. But it's very prestigious, and a lot of great names share those pages. Now, to do a complete circle back here. You were saying your kind of background is in film, video. You're saying that's kind of more work related, and whenever you're working with video, it's more on the clock. But do you find that working with video with 1,000 images all in succession in that particular case translates into the way that you do your single imagery?
Not necessarily, because the only correlation is just trying to tell a story. That's how I got into film. I just enjoyed sharing other people's stories, and more specifically, just the comment, the average Joe, or the people that might not be known in the community or whatnot. And just like with my street photography blogs, the interviews, I like interviewing those that may or may not be known by the general street photography community, trying to give them a voice, Although I don't have a platform like somebody like Eric Kim who can reach the masses, but it's just good to just give people like that an opportunity and learn from them. I like learning from other street photographers, their creative process and how they got into it. And because a lot of times, I'm in this photographer block, which I'm sure you guys run into. It helps reignite the fire a lot of times.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But
yes.
Back to the film or video world, not necessarily, because a lot of the gigs I do, commercial work is it's almost down to like a science, unless I'm doing stuff on the side, where I have more creative control, I would say. But
you've kind of gotten desensitized to it, just become motor memory at this point for the video stuff, so it's not really affecting your photographic work.
Yeah, because the photo is more just to get that creative binge out of the way on a daily basis or whenever I can, right?
Yeah, that smoke break, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's what that's about. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, it'd be worthwhile to do a quick whiplash here. You mentioned your interviews on your blog there, and these are all kind of text based. You're just kind of like conversating with them through like email or.
Just conversating through email. Actually, I send them a list of questions, and then after that, I'll send them follow-up questions if there needs to be. But a lot of the people that I've interviewed, I think majority of them I've met in person. So there's been already that connection.
You already got that kind of personal relationship with them in some form.
I think only maybe one or two. I know for sure one I haven't met in person, but I mean, you guys know a lot of the street photographers there. A lot of them are nice people,
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much,
to help.
It's a community, really,
right.
and it's all welcoming.
Yeah, and it's great when you're able to meet other people with the same interests and passion, and you can just talk for days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've found that even the most asshole-ish seeming photographers from a distance are the biggest teddy bears when you actually get to meet them.
Right.
Like, I mean, Jim, he seems like a teddy bear always. He's the opposite. When you meet him, you're like, oh, this guy.
All right, better not hit him up.
Oh my God!
I better not hit him up when he comes to Honolulu. Then
right. Man. So you didn't get to meet him when you were here last time. He seems nice.
You'll see when I get to Honolulu, man. I would definitely be there.
Yeah,
do a little shooting on the beach.
I want more people to come to Hawaii. I mean, the cool thing about Hawaii is we're in between mainland USA and international Asia.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know just street photography friends on Facebook, a lot of them fly over Hawaii, and I'm kind of like, why don't you just stop here for a couple of days? That's all you really need in Hawaii anyways, just a few days, and then fly to California, fly to Japan or wherever you're going.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what makes it unique. It's just this big diverse group here.
I say look for those layover flights. Give
Right.
yourself, find something that gives you like a nice 12-hour layover so you can go and enjoy it, then jump back on the red eye.
Yeah.
Jim, do you have something you want to switch to before I went into mine?
I just had one more question. Color versus black and white. Now I see you're basically a color man. I did see I think 1 or 2 black and white shots in your Cuba series, but you're basically color. Why color more so than black and white for you?
I started shooting in black and white when I first started. I started shooting black and white because I thought that's what street photography was.
Yeah,
was black and white, and
that's the rule, man.
That's
the rule.
Like that. And then I started to venture out to color because it was more of a challenge for me to find patterns and the color on people's attire and on walls and things like that. I mean, black and white it still has its own unique challenges, but I think color for me it's about being in the present time, and it's very I don't know. I think it's harder to shoot color or to get a good color photograph.
It really is. At least I think so, because you're adding an entirely new element, an entirely new X or Y into the equation, and it's going to change up the whole dynamic on how you approach it.
Right, and I see a lot of, and I was the same way when I first started off. I see a lot of people that just kind of convert their photos to black and white without any reason, and I guess this is where my background in film or video comes in hand. Is where in video every cut, when you're editing a video timeline, every cut has to technically has to have a reason, right? You don't just cut from a wide to a close-up or vice versa or whatever. And same thing with photos. There has to be a reason to keep it color or to turn it into black and white instead of just turning it into black and white because you think it looks better.
Or you think you're supposed to be black and white. But it's,
right.
And that's go ahead.
I was just gonna say that carries along that same argument of you got to keep it timeless. But in the same vein, I think you want to give a sense of place. So like if you look at like images from the 70s, it's pretty easy to notice. It's not because it's black and white. It's maybe that washout color, that over warmth, or that kind of toy camera look, but it gives you a sense of place, a sense of era.
Yes.
I think we far too often put too much importance on on timelessness, and we forget to think about the now.
Right, and I think if you're gonna make a photo black and white to create timelessness, I mean, a good photo is a good photo, and it'll be, it'll stand the test of time. Whether it's in color or black and white, you can take a photo today and, 50 years from now, it'll still resonate with people.
I think that's what it comes down to is a lot of people will do the switch on an otherwise bad image just trying to make it better. And then it comes back to that, one and done or pop image kind of thing where, maybe your lighting was amazing. Maybe, you nailed it tack sharp, but the true reality is there's no story to it. There's no composition. It's just a well-lit photo that you switched to black and white simply because it looks cooler.
Right,
Compensation.
Right.
One other thing I wanted to make sure that we got in here was your post about myths. That was interesting to me on your blog. You had 5 myths that new street photographers should avoid running into. And there was a couple on here I wanted to pick your brain on. The first one was traveling will make you a better photographer. That was one of your myths that you put out there. Do you hold tight to that? Is there a particular reason why you think that might not be as beneficial to new photographers traveling?
Oh, so that's why my stats have been booming because of you guys. I was like, man, holy crap! People in the U.S. are reading my stuff. Oh no, it's just two people.
It's just me and Jim. Just take a look at
Wow,
take a look at where the traffic's coming
views? Wow, I'm going viral here.
from. That's because we we research the hell out of everybody.
Oh yeah.
Like, wow, Magnum Photos, they're gonna be calling me soon.
Oh, good.
No, I think your traffic went up because you put Eric Kim and Bruce Gilden into the same sentence, and then you got a bunch of flack for it.
My second highest viewed post was that one.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But,
People really took that personally, didn't? That's
right, and that's the hard thing with blogs or just email or articles. People are just reading words, right? And words. When you read words, it's just cold. There's no emotion behind it, unless you know the person. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I just write what comes to my mind, and I just hit the post button. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was interesting. But going back to the myths, traveling, I put that one in there because a lot of people think, if I was in India or if I was in somewhere exotic, I'll get some pretty amazing photos, And I think it's just all in your mindset. I think you can create good photos anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you just gotta go out and do it. And the more you go out, the higher percentage you give yourself, right, in getting a pretty good photo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that gets tossed around a lot in discussion.
Get out of your comfort zone. It'll make you better and so forth. I think it's about what you get out of it, what you put into it. If you just travel to Barcelona just because, then what the hell are you going to get out of it if you're not looking around?
And then I think too, when you're traveling, you're not worried about anything else. You're not worried about work, or you gotta do this, you gotta do the clothes, or you gotta take the kids to school or whatever. You're just kind of zoning out, how you should be when you're shooting the streets. Like I mentioned before, it's like your cigarette break. Mm-hmm. So when you're traveling, you have all the time in the world, and you're not really worrying about any of your daily stresses that you normally would. Mm-hmm. And so that way you can just kind of zone out and just start shooting and go out and about. So I think if you can just have that same mindset when you're at your home state, you should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, the sense of culture and all of that, those benefits that traveling can provide. Again, when I saw that in the myths, at first it kind of took me back. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. But when you think about it, it is actually very, very true. Because there's no point in traveling if you're not going to pay attention. And if you can't do the same damn thing in your own backyard, then,
what good are you?
Exactly. Some of the best photographs out there were taken within, 2 miles of the photographer's house.
Right. Exactly. Like Mark Cohen, right? He just photographed in his neighborhood and things like that. And there's a lot of other great photography, and that's what street photography is about. It's just getting those mundane shots. Mm-hmm. That's what keeps it interesting for yourself.
William
create a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's almost like I have a lot of analogies for street photography, but it's like fishing, right? I mean, if you were to go out fish and you're able to get a big salmon every damn time, what fun would that be? Mm-hmm.
We get messages I've gotten messages from listeners in the past just that they might be in a rural area or not near a big city like Chicago or Miami or, what have you. And they're always kind of curious, well, I love street, but I can't do it where I'm at. And I think that's a disservice to yourself as a photographer, because where you are, there are people somewhere. And again, like, we had somebody recently in the Street PX Lounge that posted a predominantly water-based image, some people on a boat and so forth, and was like, I'm not sure if this is street. And, many would argue that, but I think you're kind of putting restrictions on something that's a wide definition. And the use of the word street in and of itself, I think, is a disservice, because it's not always street. It can be a beach, like what you were doing, we were talking about before, which those come out amazing. And if you want to argue that fact, look to Bruce Gilden's Coney Island series. I mean, there is not a street to be seen, but that street, that's gorgeous, amazing work. And when it comes to rural area, you just, it's not like everybody lives in Appalachia, at the top of a mountain. Just even if the population's 500, that means there are people. There might be a business or a grocery store or a local hangout where the kids go or something. Go do that. And so what if you know them? I'm looking at the picture from 8 states away. I don't know them.
I think it's better if you're from a unknown city or you're living in an area where it's haven't been photographed much.
Yeah.
Untainted territory.
Yeah, there's a million photographers in New York, and there's a million here, and even San Fran is getting crowded now, right?
Yeah, I mean you're squandering an opportunity.
Right. I think it's better to be. In this case, I don't know if this is the best example, but I think it's better to be a big fish in a small pond, and then eventually, and at the end of the day, wherever you take the photo, Cuba or San Fran, New York, or wherever, Japan, a good photo is a good photo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like talent, like no matter what politics stands behind it or whatever it may be, like good talent will always rise above.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, talking just really quick, I want to interject, talking about that, focusing on rural areas or, not limiting yourself just because of where you are. I want to give kind of a shout out to my people back in the Midwest. Anybody listening from like Carbondale or Cape Girardeau, which most of our listeners out there are going, where the fuck is that? That's okay. It's flyover states. But for my people out there, I would love to see imagery like that because I've been disconnected from my hometown for well over a decade now. And, I don't have the opportunity to go back and document that, but I have severe regrets that I didn't get a chance to. And coming from a small town like that, it really shows me, in hindsight, the importance of taking the imagery and keeping these images for posterity, seeing businesses gone, people missing, so forth and so on. I think it's more important than ever for people that are not in major cities to break out the camera and document their hometowns.
I think a lot has to do with, people are impatient, right? They want to take that photo and just get recognition for it. Mm-hmm. But the best photos, in my opinion, it's like wine. They age over time, and you can take that photo and 5-10 years or whatever down the line, you take that out and, it gets the credit that it deserves if it's a good photo.
Yeah.
I
think it's hashtag sickness. It's like, if it doesn't have hashtag San Francisco or hashtag Chicago, then nobody's going to see it. It's not true. Right, Jim, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say what the Walker Evans exhibition that's at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. They talk about the American vernacular, and that's just ordinary shots taken, many years ago. But there's no big city thing to it. There's no, they're just simple images of simple places, and taken maybe 40, 50 years ago, and they're still beautiful. They still draw your interest, even though they're not from any huge city or anything. It's just an everyday scene at that time, and it's just fascinating. So yeah, you're right. Both of you guys are right. It doesn't have to be in a huge city or metropolis full of people. It could be a small town, Cape Girardeau, or anywhere else.
And sometimes the photos, it won't get appreciated today, but maybe 10 years down the line,
that's right.
A group shot of people taking selfies would be, considered an iconic image.
Yeah.
But today it would be considered cliche.
Yeah, so don't throw away those cell phone shots.
Right.
those shots of people looking at cell phones. You know what I always said, 50 years from now, they're going to look at these shots of people with cell phones and say, wow, how could they have walked around with something that big in their hands? It's like, 50 years, the little phones that we're using now.
Well, it's
sorry, guys.
Yep, and that's where I was going to throw you our final question that we ask everybody, and that is, and it's actually pretty on point too. If there was any place in the world that you could go and photograph since the inception of the camera, time and space, where would that be and why?
That's a hard one, but I would probably go back in time to when my parents were in the Philippines, the refugee camp in the Philippines. That's where they met. Photographed that. They got some good images there. I don't know who took their photo. That would be a project, like my side project, to find out who took those photos of them during the refugee camp.
How long were they in the refugee? I'm sorry, this is just fascinating to me. How long were they there?
About a year.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah. So that's more sentimental, but I think photographing. See, there's a lot of good errors, you know.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And some of them is kind of like, I don't know if I want to be in that. So that was, you know, it's just crazy.
Well, to be honest with you, like like what you're saying right here to me seems like even a more important answer than many of them that we usually get, because the sentimental quality of what you could capture.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know, because whoever took the photographs of my parents candidly, and the portraits that were taken were very nice. So I don't know if I could take. I don't know what I would take, but I think it would just be more about just being there to witness, witness them together, I guess, before kids and all that stuff, and during the hard times.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Well, I don't mean to build onto that, but coming from that background, having that type of upbringing, did that play a role in your creativity on the directions that you chose?
I think when you come from a kind of I guess, more struggling background, you kind of think more outside the box. Mm-hmm. So, when I talk to my niece or just any young person, high school or middle school kid, that, hey, it's okay to go to be going to school it's okay to be going to public school in Hawaii. We're known as one of the bottom ranks in the States, and it's okay to, not have all the gadgets or whatever, because it just makes you want to work harder, but also think more outside the box of how you can get stuff done. But I think my creativity, I think it just draws into the stuff that I enjoyed as a kid. Like I said, I went into video and photography to tell stories. Mm-hmm. And I've always enjoyed, watching movies, of course, and then there's pro wrestling and just things like just hanging out with friends, and I've always enjoyed just trying to communicate that with others.
Right on. Cool, man. Cool. Well, I know you're short for time, so let's go ahead and jump to the links. Go ahead and let our listeners know where they can find more information about you and some of your imagery.
So you can find me on www.timhuynh, photography.com. Have my blog and vlogs and photos. You can find on Instagram. It's at Tim underscore. Yeah, underscore. Huynh, Huynh photography. And then my YouTube, which I'm hoping to put more vlogs. And it's funny, you watch my vlogs, it looks so amateurish, and my background's in video. I'm hoping to put more time and effort into making it look more, professional. But like I said, it's kind of like my vlogs. I just kind of do it and just upload it,
Yeah, guerrilla style.
That's right.
Time is so scarce, but I am looking to make it a little bit more professional. But you can find my YouTube, youtube.com/Tim Huynh Photography.
Cool. Well, Tim, thank you for that. And Jim, where can we find out more information about you?
As always, JimWatkinsPhoto.com, and all my social media platforms are linked right there.
Excellent. And for myself, you can find more about me at recasper.com. That's blog posts, workshops, portfolio, all that fun stuff. But more importantly, go take a look at streetpx.com. That is going to be all of our past episodes. This is episode 49, so we're about to come up on a very, very special day. And as we talked about in the opening, Jay Blakesburg is coming in for our 50th show, our 50th anniversary, I guess, for how many times we post these things. But keep an eye on that. That's coming up in a couple weeks. Additionally, gear. We have a big smorgasbord of new camera designs coming out here for the 50th show. So keep an eye there on streetpx.com. Click merchandise, and you'll see all of those new designs very soon. Additionally, Patreon. So if you want to help us keep everything going, keep these mics hot and the lights on, check us out at patreon.com/StreetPX. And you can give us $1, you can give $5, $10, whatever you're comfortable with. And it's not for nothing because you do get freebies. We got prints for offer. We got t-shirts, free portfolio reviews, all that great shit you can find there. And lastly, iTunes reviews. We love reviews. We need them. We need stars so we can get in more ears out there. So go take a look on iTunes or Google Play Music or iHeartRadio and throw us up a review. If you're loving the show, a little payback with some love in text form is more than appreciated. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close this one up. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. A big thanks to Tim and Jim. Rhyming
thank
there.
you, man.
Been a great one, and we will see everybody here in 2 weeks on the 50th show.
Take it easy, guys.
Cheers.